This is Author's Feet, a literary program focusing on our authors. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it is right here. Our guest today is exciting. He's a straight kind of guy, yet he's very diverse in the way he tells his stories. Karibu sana, Yobby.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Karibu sana. Thank you for agreeing to come and see us. Are you awake? Your T-shirt is...
I'm awake right now.
You're awake.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that.
Not a morning person, so this is my peak time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
For starts, what are you reading?
I am actually rereading Kintu by Jennifer Nansumbuga.
Nice, yeah.
She's an amazing author. It's a historical fiction book, which of course I'm into. The depth of research and her storytelling and her plot line, I just had to reread it.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
I need to confess right from the word go that I am actually trying to bring myself to reread your book because it's an amazingly written book. It has so many also historical facts, like you put it, but it made me cry. So we are going to, I don't know how we are going to get that, but I need to understand where you were coming from when you decided to write this book. Was it through your newspaper work or filmmaking? How did you start this?
Well, I have to go way back because...
Please do.
Because I started writing primary school, like seriously, properly writing for competitions. I was one of those guys whose pass marks was 47, 48 out of 50. And getting into high school again, I got into all those sorts of competitions and got several awards. So after that, when social media came, I decided, why not serialize or write flash fiction? So I've actually been using Facebook as a tool of experiment,
right?
Different styles, getting reactions from different people, knowing what works, what doesn't work. And because I used to write so much, the way Facebook people are, when you're writing a book, you should turn this into a book. But I didn't want my first book to be something that I can just sit on the toilet and write. I wanted it to be something solid. And this book was inspired by a visit that I took to Dadaab in 2015. And
a work visit?
Yeah, it was work visit. Well, Dadaab, you just can't go there if you don't have a reason to be there. Or you can't.
Okay.
You have to seek permission from different government agencies, state your business. So it was a work visit. But interacting with the people there opened my eyes in a huge way, because I met people who were in their early 20s but had never left the camp. People who had been born in the camp, raised in the camp, married in the camp, gotten kids in the camp, but they've never left the camp. And we have all these government agencies, well, non-profit agencies, international agencies there. But still, it feels like an open air prison, because you can't leave. For you to leave the camp, you have to seek permission, and permission is not always granted. So in a conversation that I had with them, I asked this group of youth, what is it that you guys crave the most? And the answer was unanimous: freedom.
Freedom to be out there, or freedom just, is it like a mental freedom as well? How did it feel like to you?
I felt that it sort of encompasses all of that, because if your life is restricted in one area, there's only so much that you can do. If you're seeking employment, you're seeking employment from the agencies which are operating in that area. If the agencies close down and go, what will you do? You can't go to a different town and seek opportunities. You can't go to study somewhere else without seeking permission. So it just made me realize how much we take our own freedom for granted.
It changed you.
Yeah.
It changed you. So then we come to Once There Was a Star. Give us a, I could do that, but could you please give us a brief history, give us a blurb quickly about of Once There Was a Star?
So Once There Was a Star is a book about what led to all these refugees being in Dadaab, what led to the breakdown of Somalia and the beginning of the civil war, and why being in a tented refugee camp and open air prison is so much better than being home.
And so you give us Halima was my I think she was my all-time favorite character, but also she's the one who made me saddest. How was your characterization? How did you decide Halima is the one who's going to go through all these? There was the guy with that, was it the leg? He had missed the leg. So you started from, you started bringing the issues right from the word go.
Yeah.
Yet you were able to put in like love stories in between there. I really need to understand that head, by the way. I need to understand your state at that point when you were doing the characterization.
Well, you see, love doesn't stop just because the situation is bad. You have people living in slums, people whose houses have been washed away by floods, but they still find love. It's very separate from the circumstances. It's why in the refugee camps people are getting married every day and having kids despite the situation. So I didn't want the story to be purely about war. I had to talk about Somali culture. I had to talk about the relationships between each other and with friends. I had to talk about, the personal interactions, the beliefs, um, different people having different traits, and all that is what makes a society. So it wasn't just about war, because even in the middle of war, life goes on. You'll find a reason to laugh.
I think it's like the speck of hope in every dire situation.
Yeah.
This story, is there a story, you said you spoke to a lot of them. I kept wondering, what these stories that were based on stories you heard from them, and then you built your own, you know how the creatives do, you hear something, and did you hear of, I'm trying not to give away too much because I would love people not to get this book. But there was, it's Halima who just kept going through all these trouble after trouble, even when there's hope, there's trouble. And in the end, I'm not even sure if she made it or not, actually, to wherever she was going. But did you get to hear stories like that?
Yeah, I did. I did quite a number of stories, but then I also did a lot of research. I have a folder with around, it's over 120 documents. And these are not two-page documents. They're full reports. The number of videos that I've scored, filmed by the Somali government. Some of them not have translations. Some of them ask for translations. Newspaper stories from the 70s, 80s. Like it was a lot of research that went into this. And the reason for that is because I didn't want to make up my own stories when it's such a sensitive story.
True.
So it had to be as real as possible. And I had to have fidelity to the facts. So a lot of these situations that happened, that I wrote about in the book, actually happened.
They did.
Yeah.
Makes it even worse for me.
Yeah,
I'll try not to cry on set today.
Yeah. Now you can imagine. I actually sort of made the stories gentler than what I received.
That is hard to believe.
I promise you, I did. The Somalis that read the book after this said that the things which you didn't write all the details about.
Wow.
Yeah.
That research, how long did it take you? How long did it take you to write this book? Because 120 pages, and then there's speaking to people, and there's...
It was about 2.5 to 3 years of research. Yeah.
Research before you started.
Yes. Because thing about research is it's funny. You have an idea and you start researching it. Like, for example, I started with the fall of Siad Barre, former president of Somalia, and what led to that. So that happened in the early 90s. So now you go to the 80s, what led to that? Then you realize that, this thing started before the 80s. So you go to the 70s and start researching the events that led to the beginning of all that. And at the middle of that, there are all these small sub-stories and subplots, how do people do trade, for example? What do they eat? What songs do they sing? Where do they go hang out? How do they relate? What's the social situation at the time? And man, Somalia was beautiful.
It was before that, yeah, before all the war.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Like looking at the videos and the photos, it looked like, I can't even describe it.
Paradise.
Yeah, all these beaches and tourists are there having fun. You have all these people just minding their own business. I mean, honestly speaking, if we're not for that war, Somalia would be a top tourist destination. And I got to experience a bit of that because coincidentally, I also got a job in Somalia. So I went there to several different towns, and when I came back, I actually shredded everything that I'd written and started afresh.
Because you understood it better?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, do you know, at some point I thought you were Somali. I did, and I'm thinking, okay, the names are not extremely clear.
Yet to meet a Somali named Meshack.
No, I'm sure there's a Somali somewhere called Meshack. No? Oh, okay, but I thought, because why I thought you were Somali is because of the deep understanding that seemed to come out, that you communicated here. So good job on that. Good job. All right, you haven't finished telling me after the research. Then how long did it take to
write? It must have taken me close to a year.
Because that's not too bad, though.
It's not too bad, and it's sort of on and off, because at some point it gets too much, then you need a break.
Too much, like emotionally. Was it draining for you?
Yeah. It was. It was. I was in a relationship at the time, and one day my partner then told me something small, but the way that I answered, she just knew that, man, you're not okay. You need to take a pause.
Yeah.
Do your thing. I'll give you time. Yeah. But you need to get a handle on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was consuming you.
It was.
Writing can break relationships. Just remember that.
It was, because how do you deal with reading true accounts of soldiers going into houses and chopping the heads of babies off? How do you deal with reading first-hand accounts of a woman gang raped several times, different places?
It cannot leave you unscathed, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But have you been able to, because this is the other thing about authors, writers, and everything, and something I might not totally understand, because I'm a fiction writer, so I wouldn't, my stuff is mostly made up. But yours, on the other hand, it might be fiction, but it's, it's full of facts.
Yeah.
How does that change you? And would you do something like this again? How does that change you as a person? Do you get to a point where you're like, I shouldn't have done this?
Honestly speaking, at some point, I nearly quit.
Right.
I actually quit for like a month, because I was like, do I actually have to write this story?
Was it for you? Did you worry about it because of you, or for what people will read? For you?
For me, because it was too much. Like, do I have to write about this story? But then again, my aim was to sort of shed some light on what refugees go through and what it takes to actually have to leave home and refuse to go back. Because it's not fun, seeing people live. Have you been to Dadaab? See, the situation now is so much better, but when it started, if you looked at it from a distance, you'd think that there's a pile of plastic paper blown about by the
I've
wind.
seen photos though, yeah.
Stuck on bushes. Then you get closer and you realize that these are actually people's shelters, about this high.
You have to like be flexible enough to bend down. Or
and the whole family sometimes can't fit in there. Some sleep outside. And even then, there's no security. So for a woman being in Dadaab, if you have no male presence around you, then it's also dangerous. You can't even go out to look for firewood alone. At
some point, you wanted to quit this because, this is just too much. But before that, I'm thinking you were in university, so, life is, maybe you partied, maybe you did not. But either way, it's quite easy out there. And then you are thrown into this world where it's so harsh. It's, people are cruel, people are inhuman, and, does it change you?
It does. Like my appreciation of people became so much greater. My appreciation of life and what I have. Because what I've seen is that it's only during adversity that you appreciate what you have. You're quite well traveled. You know that in Africa, well, in Kenya, we cry a lot about our country, but travel to other places in Africa and you appreciate what you actually have, and you cherish it so much better. Like the time that I was in Somalia doing work, when I came back, man, and I felt like we don't know what we have. We take it for granted. Because in Somalia, you've seen those war movies with bombed out buildings, bullet holes in walls. It was like that, and gunshots are quite regular. Somalis used to call it the music of Mogadishu. It's regular. Someone can just shoot a gun out.
And we continue this shoot.
Like it's no big deal. If your security guys are cool, then no big deal.
Yeah.
And I realized that something was wrong because at some point it became normal to me. That just shouldn't be normal. No, but it became like it didn't even click in my mind that there's a guy with a gun out here. So coming back home, I realized that we take so many things for granted. We take each other for granted.
Yeah.
And the stuff that happened in 2007, for example, would never have happened if only we realized the value of peace.
Do you love Khaled Gibran?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did he inspire you?
Was
his writing an inspiration?
Yeah. When I was writing, at some point I thought, what does this thing sound familiar? But now you see the Somali culture and the Afghan culture, they're sort of similar in so many things. Yeah.
And then there's war.
Even the stories of war.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even the culture, the way they relate, there's so many, the poetry. No, I didn't know that Somalia is such a poetic society until I started researching.
It is, eh?
Yeah. And that is the stuff that happens in Afghanistan. So the similarities were very striking, but...
Because strangely, I read your book after... What's that kite thing? The one?
The Kite Runner.
Yeah, the Kite Runner. Yeah. I read the Kite Runner and then I read this and I'm like, I feel like I'm reading a second series of the Kite Runner. Yet it wasn't actually you didn't really copy, but I kind of felt Khalil here.
Well, I love him. He's an amazing author. I've read everything that he's written.
Yeah.
And as I was writing this, I was asking myself, am I writing what are the facts of Somalia, or am I trying to ape him? And honestly speaking, I see no other way of telling the culture of Somalia in a different way.
In a different way.
Like, it is what it is.
So in a way, it's the culture that is dictating your style of writing.
Yeah.
I need to read more Somali writers and then I'll come back with a...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? You should. I'm sure you know a few. You should recommend them for me. Find me with a list and give me to read them. Are you working on something else? And if yes, what?
I am. It was supposed to have been done by now, but life this year has been messy in so many ways. But yeah, I am.
You are. What should we expect? More tears, sir?
Hopefully. Okay, let me just say it. It's the story of why Eastern DRC is burning. Yeah.
Have you covered DRC?
I haven't been there. I was supposed to go there, but I was advised that foreigners can't go there around the time that I wanted to go. It was too delicate.
Yeah.
International organizations were pulling people out of Eastern DRC and Goma.
So are you on to a more fact hunting spree of research and all that?
Yeah, right now I think I have around 160 documents. And there's a part that I totally have not researched because it's the way that I'm telling the story. It's in.
Why is it that you seem to gravitate towards war stories? I know somebody has to. We can't all be writing lovey-doveys while the rest of the world is burning. But why is it you gravitate towards the war stories?
I actually decided to write about Eastern DRC. What was it? Was it 2 years ago? Like it's a current story. It's affecting so many people. We have Rwandese and Congolese in Kenya, in Nairobi, living among us. And I know in future the population will only increase. So I started researching it for my own sake, not even to write.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to know why this place, all these years, why, how come there's no peace? And to the normal person on the street, it's because foreign interests, minerals, and all that. But that is a very tiny part of the story.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, don't tell us so that we can buy the book.
Yeah.
So where do you, is this information easily available, or do you have to go through hoops and...
It's not easy. And DRC is a francophone country, and they don't speak French. You would have an advantage. So
no, I don't speak French either. No, my French is in Kikuyu form. My French is in Kikuyu form. Okay. I only went for 1 month in a French class, and that was so many years ago. So no, I don't speak French.
Yeah, so it's the language barrier, just a little bit, but I have a lot of information.
Yeah.
Plus, I have contacts there in Rwanda and DRC, and so yeah.
Okay, so after all that, the blood and sweat and the excitement and the tears and all that, how are sales going?
Do you know? I'd recovered all costs during pre-orders.
That is the kind of thing I like to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you do that? Did you do?
It was a lot of marketing.
Online or?
Online. Thank heavens, my Facebook community is pretty big and pretty supportive. And plus, I'd been writing all these years, so people
they knew what to expect.
Yeah.
I'll actually confess, I didn't even know about this. My friend bought me this book, and she's like, "Shiko, you have to read this." And I was like, okay, she knows books and the kind of stuff I like, so she got me the book, and I'm like, oh, thank you.
Hopefully you like the next.
I hope if you keep up with that, but I would like you to keep away the tears.
You want
so you recovered your costs, but you've also kind of made, like, could you live on that if you didn't have another job?
I don't think so. Just because of the fact that during the initial months, the sales are always high. I think that is when most writers make a killing. Then because your circles will read and buy and recommend. So after the initial couple of waves, things sort of die down, and you have to put a lot more money and effort into marketing. And at some point, if you're self-published, then the distribution is sort of limited.
Which you are, yeah.
Yeah. You don't have the budgets to distribute.
How are you doing your distribution and how are you doing the sales? Surely you're not doing all the logistics.
No. Well, during the pre-order phase, I did that. But now I'm selling online at Nuria. Yeah.
Ah, Nuria, our savior, Nuria online. So, what would you say we do wrong as self-published authors when we don't make enough sales? I know enough sales is all relative because it depends on what you're looking for, but we've seen some people who manage to keep up there like constantly. And then we've got people with amazing books, because where I am, I get a chance to read awesome works, and I'm always wondering, why is this one not, a top 10? What do you think we do wrong? What?
I think for a lot of creatives, we focus on creating but not marketing. Like me, for example, I didn't have a book launch. Why? I don't know. So, and all these things are part of marketing. If someone gets a proper marketing strategy, then I think it's possible to keep up sales long after the initial waves. Getting people to review our books, constantly keeping the word out there that, I have this product. A lot of the books which are still doing well long after the initial sales, are either controversial or a non-fiction in a way that they speak to everyday normal challenges of people in a way that people would appreciate. And if it's fiction, then the ones that I know that are still doing well are based on fact, things which people can relate to. Yeah.
So we need to decide if we want to make money or get out there. And if we want to make money, we need to go controversial, which is not very easy to do. It's also very consuming, by the way, when you're being controversial. All right. Tell me a little bit about your other works, like television and the newspaper correspondence. Let us know you a little bit more beyond this man who writes about such a culture and sounds like he comes from the culture.
I'm a newspaper correspondent with the Daily Nation. I've been doing it for, I think, 6 years now. It's a job that I enjoy. It's not hard news. It's mostly features, random articles here and there. Writing for kids, junior sport on Mondays. It's a job that I enjoy. It doesn't take a lot of my time, but I enjoy writing it. But my day job is film. So I've done a number of TV shows, reality shows mostly.
Give us an example.
Okay, I've been part of Project Fame, Coke Studio Africa, Safaricom's Blaze Be Your Own Boss, East Africa's Got Talent, Bongo Star Search in Tanzania.
Awesome.
So many documentaries and other TV shows.
Where is your heart? Say you are offered the same money for both. Where is your heart? Film or film?
Yeah, I think because there's a lot of variety. No 2 days are ever the same. Even on the same project, today will never be the same as tomorrow. And being a freelancer, the variety of work that I do keeps me excited about it. For books, like writing historical fiction, like I want to, like I usually do, it's very tasking. Before you get to that stage where you're actually able to write, the amount of reading and research and phone calls that you'll have made would have taken so much time, and seeing the final product is maybe 2 years away. So I enjoy film more, actually.
Okay. Yeah. I would like you to read for us a passage. I am so curious to know which one you will pick.
Can I read the whole book?
I wish you could. I wish you could. Then we can cry together. But also you cannot, because I want them to read. Really, seriously. This is book I highly recommend because of It's very entertaining, it's very informative, and it's seriously deep. And it makes you think about a lot of things. Yeah, I think people should be made to read this book.
Okay, just going to read a couple of pages.
What page is that?
85. But I'll start from the bottom because I'll go to halfway to 88. I don't want to read too many pages.
Okay.
The bus picked up more passengers, and once everyone had paid their fare, it rumbled on to Badka, not far from the airport. The execution site was an open ground at the base of a hill. It was already full of people standing patiently in the sun facing the hill. Long poles had been stuck deep into the ground. Ismail had seen many men blindfolded and tied to the poles, waiting for the crack of guns and their death. The victory pioneers patrolled, checking that the residents from the neighborhoods they had been assigned to were present. Police officers walked around, making sure that everyone was at their best behavior. As soon as Ismail and Zahra had alighted, Abdullahi approached them with two police officers. Ismail, come, Abdullahi said, as usual, without pleasantries. I want you to see this clearly, so you understand what will happen if you ever lie to me again. Ismail and Zahra followed their tabele to the front of the crowd. A truck on which speakers were mounted slowly drove in. A man jumped out and quickly set a microphone on a stand as far away as the cable could reach, then jumped back into the truck. A group of soldiers was standing near the poles in the field, checking their weapons. An army officer that Ismail recognized as Brigadier Hashi approached, and the soldiers immediately stood at attention and saluted. Brigadier Hashi was in charge of the 26th Division of the Army, which was assigned to northern Somalia. He said something and the soldiers marched to a point around 10 meters from the poles and took position. Brigadier Hashi then went to the microphone and forced a cough to check that it was loud. Satisfied, he scanned the crowd. As if on cue, another army truck came in much faster than the one carrying the microphones. Soldiers jumped out and talked excitedly. Prisoners wearing the blue SNM uniform were dragged down, their hands cuffed. Their clothes were bloody, and some walked with a limp. Soldiers pushed them towards the poles. The crowd went silent. No, I am innocent! I am innocent! One shouted and fell to the ground. Two soldiers picked him up and dragged him along the ground to the poles. The others were prodded forward with guns. As the soldiers started tying them to the stakes, Ismail's lips went dry, and his knee became so weak that it was only the crutches holding him up. The prisoners were his brothers, Saleh, Mohammed, Jama, and Maulid. Abdullahi the tabele turned to look at Ismail. Two police officers did the same. Ismail felt like weeping. His heart was wailing, but he forced his face to be blank. Abdullahi and the policemen were waiting for Ismail to show grief so that they could arrest him too, because no one was supposed to be sad when the government executed rebels. No one but rebels could be sad at such a moment. Brigadier Hashi coughed again into the microphone. 2 days ago, patriotic Somali National Army officers were patrolling the outskirts of Arab Sio when they encountered Somali National Movement rebels, he said. Our army asked the rebels to surrender so that they could be rehabilitated and integrated back into a united society, but the rebels refused to cooperate. They instead shot at our army without any hesitation. Thankfully, the army is very well trained for such circumstances. Not a single one of our men was hit. A few people clapped their hands, and the applause grew so loud that Sahara was forced to join in, or else be arrested for not supporting the law. The brigadier lifted his hand, and the applause died down. However, our gallant soldiers managed to wipe out the entire unit of rebels, he said. Only these 4 remained. We brought them in for questioning, and we were satisfied that they indeed plan to overthrow the government of President Barre. We cannot allow that to happen. According to the laws of our land, treason is punishable by death. People started clapping again. Ismail could not decide if it was genuine cheer, but he did not care much. His heart was in his throat, and despite the heat of the sun, it felt like he was freezing. He wanted to run to his brothers to promise to avenge their deaths. He wanted to offer them tea and Sahara snacks, sit with them under the stars, and recite old poems. He wanted to tell them goodbye. But Abdullahi and the police were there, making a man watch the killing of his brothers and not allowing him to mourn. This is what happens to anyone that tries to overthrow the government, Brigadier Hashi shouted. Soldiers, prepare them. 2 soldiers ran to the poles carrying small sacks, which they roughly pulled over the heads of Ismail's brothers. Then the soldiers quickly walked to a safe distance. Ready, Brigadier Hashi shouted. The soldiers that had formed the line in front of the poles cocked their weapons. We are innocent. Aim! Allahu Akbar! Fire! The police officers never took their eyes off Ismail. As the obligatory claps started, Ismail raised his eyes to the hill behind the poles. He had been to the top once, and from that height, everything below always seemed so minute and peaceful.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. After all that, how do you relax? How do you take a breather after a hard day? You know, I'm trying to get my head out of that.
I watch stupid TV.
You did something stupid in life, eh?
Yeah, nothing serious. I do not read any books at that point. Just something silly, something comedic, just to take my mind off things.
Something to make you laugh.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you so much for turning up.
Thank you
Thank you for telling us a little bit about your book and your journey to this. And I can't wait to read the next project. I hope you don't make me cry. I know I've said that enough. But I am promise. Either way. I know it will be an amazing piece of work. So I'm looking forward to it. But maybe before we go, you can tell our viewers where they can find your book and for how much.
So you can find my book at Nuria Bookstore, selling at 1,000 bob only.
Thank you. We've come to the end of the program. We hope you have enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it for you. I'd like to thank our amazing crew all around us here and Cheche Book House for giving us this venue. Thank you. I am Empress Ciku Kimani Mwaniki, and see you next time. Bye-bye.